speak unto us now, that we may be fortified in the faith, strengthened in the knowledge and understanding that leads to salvation, that we may be drawn closer to you in order to praise you, to love you, and to be filled with your spirit and presence. Do this in spite of the uncertainty. For this we pray. Amen. Today, we begin a new series about our creed, or all the creeds that are at the core and the formation of our Christian faith. We will be focusing for the next couple months on the Apostles' Creed and taking it line by line as we look at what it is that we say each week in service as we declare our faith. This means that for some, we will get to be celebrating Christmas in September, as well as Easter, when we get to Jesus. I know that some are looking forward to that those who love Christmas and want it more than once a year. We'll also be looking at the Holy Spirit and the communion of saints, and we'll be looking at that particular line in the creed that upsets people sometimes, the I believe in the Catholic Church, one Catholic Church, that I know that some people kind of take a little disturbance with, but we'll look at that in depth in a couple of weeks. So as we begin, though, the exploration of the creed, we start at the beginning. I believe in God the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. And as I was trying to look at this beginning line, I began to think about what it would actually mean to delve deep into that line. And I thought about the creation story, which is why we had our scripture lesson this morning from Genesis. And if we think about how God is the creator of heaven and earth, it gives us a clue as to also how God is our Father Almighty. You see, God was the one who brought order out of chaos. And in our story, we can see how God is beginning to shape and mold everything and prepare everything for what is to come next. It says that in the beginning, the earth was formless and void, which can also be translated that the earth was filled with chaos, and that the Spirit of God was moving over the waters. This is not, as we might think, a Hebrew Bible claim on the Holy Spirit. But it is a place where we as Christians have traditionally looked at our early creation story and saw that God was not simply creating by himself, but that God was working with the whole Trinity to bring about creation. And so in the beginning there is this chaos, and God's Spirit is moving over the chaos. And God decides that it's time to begin to order all things. And so he starts by declaring, "Let there be light." And there was light. I could not help but think about how God not only provided the light into the world, but how God also provides his Son as light as well. That even before time began, God had created light through Jesus Christ, the true light. And God continues on. Seeing that there is light and there is dark, God then determines that it's time to separate the sea from the sky. He creates an atmosphere around the earth, a way of containing all that is and separating it from the space beyond. And the clouds form. And having completed the creation of the atmosphere and the air and separating it from the waters below, he then begins to move the waters that are left and put them in their places and creates land. And from this land, God brings forth vegetation, plants after their type, and trees bearing fruit after their type. God has put forth food there on the land in preparation for what is to come next. Then it says that God creates the stars in the sky and the greater and lesser lights to govern the day and night as a way of telling seasons and time and years and days. And the sun and the moon are formed. And people, when they come about, will be able to know and measure how long that they've been there and how long until the next cycle begins. And so after having completed the stars and the sun and the moon, God begins to form the fish of the sea and the birds of the air. And I thought about, as it's talking about the great sea monsters of the sea and all these things that God created, I couldn't help but think back to a movie that kind of defined my generation, Jurassic Park. And in Jurassic Park, we learn that the dinosaurs are probably more like birds than they were like lizards. And so how appropriate it is that even in our biblical story, we are hearing that the birds and fish are created long before the mammals and the reptiles and the amphibians and the bugs and the people, that we hear this order, this plan being carried out. And so the fish and the birds are created, and then God begins to create the cattle of the field and the beasts and the creeping things. And after he has all of these things in place, all of these animals, after everything has been brought together, then God decides to create a being in his own image. God decides to make a soul and give it a body, a part of God, a vision of God himself, and he creates man and woman. Everything has been set up for them. All the food that they will need, the light and the dark, even his prepared pathway for their salvation has already been put in place. Their path to becoming like him, to joining him and being a part of his Trinity is already there and ready to go. And after creating all these things, God did one last thing, and that was to set an example. And God chose to rest on the seventh day. Not that God was tired, as we believe in a God of infinite power and strength, but as a way of showing us as people and as his creation that we too should rest. So God had prepared all of these things. And so as we look at God as creator and God as Father Almighty, it's hard not to see how God was like a good parent. That knowing that we were coming, knowing that we were the ultimate plan, God laid everything out. He set everything up and made it all ready for our arrival. And after we had arrived, God even went further and started to teach us and to help us grow. Help us to learn to be more like him. Help us to subdue the world around us, to become lords of the creation alongside him. He showed us what it was to rest and to love. And all of these things he did in the right time. All the way up even into sending his Son to die on the cross that we might find our way home. All the way up to even sending us, the church, the power of his Holy Spirit. Everything in its time and in its place, in its perfect order. Just as a parent prepares for a child, as a parent loves a child, and is faithful to making sure that child grows up well. As we think and as we say the first line of the creed, I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. May we remember that God has been there in our lives, preparing the way for us from beginning to end. Making sure that all that we need is around us. Teaching us, setting the example for us, offering us correction, and showering us with praise. May we see God and appreciate God as the one who loves us, just as a parent loves a child. The creation is the proof of God's love. The order from chaos, the good from the bad, the light from the dark. Let us always see our Father in heaven and experience his love. Amen.